welcome everyone to the Melbourne MicroPython meetup for April. Damien's okay. We're in the fake world. Damien will be talking after me about 1.20. Attention, we're about to start. Damien's going to be talking about this release that's been going on for a little while now. You might have heard of it. It's 1.20.
Well, thanks everyone for coming and joining online. I'm here in the Hackspace in person today. I don't think I've been here for maybe a year or a bit longer. I don't remember. It's a long time ago. I made it. I know everyone's been waiting for the next release, and I made it a goal to get it done before I came here today, and it got done just before I left to come here. So 1.20.0 was tagged, and the release notes were attached to that tag, and that was maybe 4 hours ago. There's still a little bit of follow-up work. It's quite a lot of work to make a release, unfortunately. So not only testing, which takes up a lot of time, but also then zipping up repositories and copying them to servers and things like that. So the actual release on GitHub, maybe tonight, tomorrow morning, when I do the rest of it. So you can see on the screen there somewhere. So it's been about 10 months, which is really way too long, 313 days since the last release. And in that time, 1,041 commits. So an average of 3 1/3 commits every day, which sustained for 313 days. But I think that's about the average we do. We do around 3 commits a day. Of course, it's not me. There are many contributors. You can see 112 contributors with at least 1 commit in this release. So that's pretty, I think that's really quite amazing. That's 1 new contributor every 3 days for 313 days. So yeah, I think it's definitely the longest, the big release with the most contributors. But it's probably also, even though the density of contributors is also probably the highest in terms of contributors per commit. I spent, I think, a lot of my time this release, so as in the past 6 months, doing reviews more than actual coding, whether or not that's a good thing, but that's how it is. But it's good because there've been some really good contributors doing lots of different things, and I just couldn't do it myself, in the sense that I couldn't write the code in that time, or even write the code, because when you have a new microcontroller, it's a lot of work to read the data sheet and understand it and make everything work. So thank you very much to all the people who have contributed. Everyone's listed in the release notes, and obviously you have your commits there, which will be there for the rest of the time. So it's good to see so much work. And one of the reasons it was delayed so long is because of Bluetooth on the Pico W, which didn't make it in the end. There were problems that were not sorted out, and I just had to draw the line. So they will be fixed eventually, and there'll be Bluetooth support there. But one of the headlines of the release is the Pico W support. So that this is sort of the first official release with Wi-Fi on the Pico W. Well, of course, Pico W has Wi-Fi, and so that was a big thing. And as part of that, there were lots of improvements to networking all around, making networking more consistent with the ports, being able to set host name, the country consistently, and other things to do with networking, which were not related to Pico W, but things like better LAN support on ESP32 with more LAN driver parts, SPI chips on ESP32, SPI LAN chips, that is, and WIZnet was improved support. I think that was part of the previous release, but it was also improved again this release. We removed support for CC3000, which is a Wi-Fi add-on. This was there from the very beginning. It's quite obsolete now. And I think also some of the ports like MIMXRT got internet support, and there's still ongoing work there with Wi-Fi as well. So there's been a lot of networking stuff, and there's still some networking stuff ongoing. Also, we've improved SSL, so there's ciphers that are supported. Mbed TLS is obviously what we use mostly for SSL. It's very large when you enable lots of ciphers to do, you know, things like elliptic curves. There's a lot of code there, but unfortunately, but these days of the internet has a lot of websites that require that and don't work if you don't have advanced cryptography. So we have enabled more ciphers so that more of the internet can work. Well, Micropython can access more of the internet. Of course, if you need to for a project, you can enable more and more and more of the ciphers that you need, but they are very heavy in terms of both sides. So there has been a lot of work, lots of areas, and networking is one of the big ones. Also, in the headline there is the new package manager MIB that we have, which I use it, and I think it's really great because you can install it on a board without networking using NP remote MIB install, or you can install it directly on the board if it's Wi-Fi or net or whatever. And it works really well. It's very straightforward and simple and designed to be lightweight, so it works on a part that doesn't have that many resources. And we do have a bit of integration with PyPy for that, and hopefully that will improve as well. So we do have a good story with packaging now, and MicroPython lib is a big part of this too. So a lot of the pure Python drivers from the main repository were moved into MicroPython lib, and we made a package so that you can install the libnib. But also MicroPython lib has made a submodule of MicroPython so that you can freeze things from MicroPython lib in the project. So there has been a lot of work there to improve the situation for packaging, and also new drivers for sensors, and things related to that. So yeah, that saw a lot of work. And the other big thing, which happened some time ago, but of course the release has been the big one, is compressed type structures. So this is an internal detail of the way built-in types are defined, like dictionaries and lists and so on. They have a piece of a data structure which describes what their type is and whether they support binary operations or unary operations and so on. And that representation of the type was optimized to take less space, basically. And if you're upgrading MicroPython and you have some C code, you may need to change the way you define types, or you will if you have any types in your classes. And in the release notes, it directs you to a commit that tells you how to do that. But that's ended up saving quite a lot of code space, and we're still very concerned about code space. One of the tests I do as part of the release is to build a large MicroPython project, very large MicroPython project. And well, the hope is that going from one release to the next, building that project, it can still build and it still fits, and it doesn't, double in size or whatever, or doesn't run out of memory. So I think it's a very good test to see, every commit, we're careful to make sure that things don't go wrong. You don't accidentally use lots of extra memory with some feature that you didn't realize. But there are some times that we increase code size because we enable features or we fix things and so on. And so this project, which is a good sort of test of the entire system, managed to decrease its code size and use, I think, almost exactly the same amount of memory. So upgrading MicroPython from 119 to 120 for that project, you would only see a slight decrease in its code size and then nothing else. So there was almost no impact in that project, which I think is really good. So you can be confident that if you are really tight in the project, that upgrading MicroPython won't break your create a build. I think you have to do some things to make a build work, but hopefully it should still fit. And so let me just scroll down. These release notes are as part of the, you can access them online. But this is the sort of summary. It's kind of, I find it good to compute the difference between releases in terms of how much the firmware is for certain builds, and that's what you see here. And you can see that for a lot of them, the firmware decreased by around 1%, and that's because of the compressed types. For the Unix port, it basically added a 50% code size, and that's because Unix underwent quite a few changes, and we shifted from AXTLS to Mbed TLS, which is a very large SSL library, and also removed or merged the dev variant, the development variant into the standard variant. So the standard Unix port has most things enabled that you would have on a bare metal board. It should match the bare metal board like pretty well.
It's now usable.
Yeah.
Pretty limited before.
So you can see it increased size. So there is still a minimal Unix port. And if you want, because the Unix port is useful in embedded Linux system where you want a lightweight Python, for example. So if you're concerned about it being large, you can just build it with your own options. There's still many. It's still easy to configure or turn off Mbed TLS, for example, if you want to cut out hundreds of kilobytes. Also, the numbers that I compute are actually built on Arch Linux, so 64-bit Arch Linux with address randomization, or space randomization, and I think it has quite a lot of overhead. If you build on a 32-bit machine statically, or without these extra features that Arch Linux enables, I think it's quite a lot less. I'm going to see. The other ports that increased was SAMD, because there was a lot of new features there. Machine module, and there was like PWM, ADC, DAC, RTC, I2C, I2SPI was all added. So the SAMD port basically doubled in size for all the features that were added. RP2 had a lot of Mbed TLS features and ciphers enabled. I think that was the main feature there. And ESP32, I think there it was enabling more LAN drivers. So this is a good sort of summary. Down here you can see all the people who contributed, which, as I said, 112. Hopefully didn't miss anyone because it's automatically generated. And yeah, the release notes here you can read, have more of a summary of what happened. There are a few breaking changes, but not really any, I don't think, that are really big ones. A few argument names have changed in the Wi-Fi modules here. SSID instead of ESSID, security instead of or key instead of password. The old one's still supported, so that is compatible, but it should still find date to the new one. So I think that's all I have to say about the release. So the next things, as I said, it's still a few more things I have to push and so on before it's a full release, but that will be done imminently. And then there's quite a lot of outstanding pull requests to merge and sort of move on to the next one. The support for ESP now that Glenn's been working on, that's almost ready to go. That didn't make it the road to the release, but I think that's okay. It will come the next one, and that will be good. We were talking about before, we'll try and support ESP-IDF5 for newer ESP32 chips. And the SSL module needs to be overhauled to use SSL context. That's been on the list for a long time. And yeah, the other thing to mention, I think Matt might talk about it, for Google Season of Docs that we were part of, there'll be documentation updates as well, which Jim will be working on. So there's a lot to do. The Renesas Port will definitely need some more attention. There's more boards there. As we know, is making boards with basis. And there's what was the other thing? But there are definitely lots of outstanding pull requests that I have to go through now. That have just been postponed because they just have to wait for a release. But now that that's out, we can just merge most of them. Go and review them.
Just
And
get
then
crazy and merge. Yeah.
and go very quickly.
There's a lot outside my fucking mood too.
Yeah, much better. But yeah, so it's good. I'm happy it's out. Let's move on to the next one. So thanks for listening. Any online?
Few meetings ago, we're talking about releases, talking about Micropython 1 hitting a wall at some stage. And Micropython 2 is going to
Oh yes.
break a lot of things. So it seems the bill of work that you just described would keep Micropython 2 a long way away.
The upcoming bill of work. Yeah.
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 Like at some stage, are you going to say enough's enough? This will go into 2, or
That's a good question.
and maybe we're not ready to answer that question.
It'd be good for me to answer it because it's good to think about it. But no, I think we can definitely just continue to do work as we've been doing and review and merge pull requests and keep going with all the things we want to do without hitting 2.0. There's scope to keep going sort of for a long time because there is a lot of extra work to do. But I would really like to just draw the line at some point and say, let's move on. And not that I'm going to discard any work that needs to be done, but somehow we have to draw the line and say we want 2.0 to be now or in the next few months, and we'll do that, and then we'll get back to a few of things that need to be merged. So 2.0 would be good to do it this year, and it doesn't have to be big backwards compatible changes. In fact, the less backwards, the more compatible it is, the better. The idea of 2.0 is that there are a few things that need to be cleaned up that we could clean up that unfortunately wouldn't break, and a lot of them think time with the epoch being 1970. So most people might not even notice the change. But there are a few things that just will unfortunately be broken, and we'll try and keep to them short. But it would be great to see 2.0, and we just have to say pause to any outstanding pull requests. We do that all the time to try and get things right. But yeah, there's definitely a forefront in my mind at the 2.0.
Matthew asks, do you have a well-defined set of goals for what a 2.0 wants to be?
Good question. We do have a work in progress document on the list of things that we want to change and that want to be done. Probably it'll have to be cut down a little bit because it's getting long. So yeah, it's sort of a work in progress what the actual definition is, what the board goals are. But once the document is sort of a good list of things, we'll put it on an issue on GitHub, then people can see exactly what. So yeah, it is work in progress.
Is there anything that you're looking to do in 1.21 other than just bringing stuff in from what other people do?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. It would be nice if I could do some work, well, as in actual unique coding instead of just reviewing code. But well, one thing is to clean up a lot of the APIs so they're even more consistent. I started doing it with the time module, but it wasn't ready for the release. And for example, it was because the time module at the moment is defined separately before. I just wanted to pull that out into one time module, be the same for every port. Every port implements it the same way, but there's a lot of duplicated code. So I want to do more of that. consolidated all the stuff that already exists into files that are common to all ports. And CircuitPython did this from day one, right? So we're kind of looking at, to follow what they've done in some sense in that way, with their shared bindings stuff. So that's one thing. The other thing that's been outstanding for ages is like an optimized event loop for async IO. At the moment, it uses select and hold, which has never really been great for like the microcontrol systems that we have. So defining a proper thing, it was called UEvent, and there's lots of discussion requests already for it. But, so UEvent or whatever UEvent will be eventually, a module which will allow optimized async IO and like light sleep when you're not doing anything. And that's one other thing on the list. And then I remembered what I couldn't remember last time, but just before, Zephyr will probably play a bit more of a role eventually, because NRF parts, newer NRF parts will not have soft device but require Zephyr. We do aim to improve Zephyr, improve Bluetooth on Zephyr, and like naming of pins and all these things, and make Zephyr more of a full featured port. That'd be sort of
Nice. Mike asks, are there any new Pi boards / hardware?
lots of good questions. Yes, so this is all dependent on the ability to purchase parts. We are doing a run of revision 3 Pi board D at the moment, based on some old microcontrollers that we had in stock. Not old, well, F722s, but we just had quite a lot of stock. We're just using up the remaining of those. We had to change flash chips because we didn't get the old flash chips anymore, so that's why it's but these ones will not be widely available. They just don't have enough parts to make it to sell to the general public. But there are some designs going well, sort of in progress for maybe a H5 STM32 H5 based board. H5s are quite nice. From profiling, they're a bit faster than the M7s, and it should be much lower power consumption. They have a switch mode power supply in them. So there's that. Yeah, so there are things in the pipeline, but it still depends on availability. We should come, well, hopefully this year we can actually get some parts. So yeah, there is stuff going. Cool.
Andy asks, what are the key areas where the community can support 1.20, e.g. new docs / tutorials, getting libraries to work with NIP, testing on boards, etc.?
Yes. Good question.
Good ones like adding MIP support to adding MIP support to existing libraries. Simple and easy thing to do, which adds a lot of value really quickly.
Yep. Yeah. I guess, yeah, growing the base of libraries there. Documentation, as I said, with Google System Docs, Jim will be overhauling a lot of that. But as part of that, it's to help make it more accessible for people to contribute to. So hopefully, I mean, it's already hopefully accessible to people to contribute, but it'll be even better. Being active, I guess, in Discord and discussions is helpful for other community members. But I think from my point of view, as I said, I do spend a lot of time doing code review. So from my point of view, issues and pull requests on GitHub, the better quality they are, the easier it is for me to maintain. So issues should come with descriptions of how to reproduce them exactly for someone else to reproduce them. That's a key thing. Sure, it's fine to give a bug report and say this thing doesn't work for me, and maybe someone else has the problem. But if you really want something to be fixed, you've got to say, you know, do exactly these steps, and then that's how you reproduce my problem and really look into it. But it's a better, really good quality issues and pull requests. Trying to get the CI to pass if you make a pull request, and Yeah, sort of, even reviewing other people's pull requests is a good idea. It goes back and forth, and that's happened quite a lot. It goes back and forth between people who are familiar with that area, and then things get changed, so then I can come along, and it's mostly the low hanging fruit in terms of comments and review. It's already been done. That would be really
In regards to the MIP support, is there a guide for implementing MIP support in Vectors?
Yes. Yep.
yes.
The standard MIPS documentation, which is in MicroPython docs, has it's pretty clear on how to do it. It's single. You only really need a single file, package.json file, for the most part. And that's about it.
Yeah, there is documentation, as you guys say,
Mm.
in Microsoft.
We've actually got a recording of Jim talking about MIP from one of these sessions. He covers it there. You can go look up. You can go Google for that. But it really is quite straightforward. I'll try and find the link while we talk.
Any other questions, chat? Or any other questions from the room?
All right, thanks. I'll load it up there.
Thanks, and
Okay.
congratulations. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting.
It was, yeah, a lot of.
Thanks, Damien.
Again.
Let me